again. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to NCJAR's Section 8 session presented by the Diversity Committee for NCJAR. My name is Danetta Hawkins, and I am the co-chair of the Diversity Committee. And I also have my my other co-chair, Wendy Worthy, who's not with us today on live on this part right here. But from both of us, we're super excited to be able to present this very informative session around Section 8, tenancy and home ownership. So welcome. However, before I get started, we recently had a loss of a dear friend of the chapter and all of us on the line, Gary Large, and I would love to just take a moment of silence in memory of him. He actually moderated this session last year. So, you know, full circle. So I would love to just, if you all would just with me, just take a moment of silence just to honor his name. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much again. So we have today with us the City of Paterson Housing Authority, and we have some amazing ladies to be able to go through the Section 8 program, the homeownership voucher program. The three women that are here today is number one, Miss Irma Gorman. She is the executive director. And if you're looking at the screen as I am, she is the one on the left. There you go. Hi. Miss Irma Gorman, she is the executive director of the City of Paterson Housing Authority. And then we also have Lucy Ruiz. She is the HUD certified counselor. Also, she is a licensed realtor and a member of NCJAR. Appreciate her. So not only does she is she very informative just from a Section 8 perspective, she also knows what it is from a realtor perspective too. So I think we get the best of both worlds with her and the expertise that she brings. And then just as a third person who's not on the screen but in the background, it's going to be helping monitor the Q&A component is we have Wanda Greer. She is one of the case managers at the Housing Authority of Paterson. So we, Mrs. Irma and Lucy will be doing two presentations today. And we're going to kick it off with Miss Irma. And then after the presentations, we're going to kind of open it up to some Q&A. So feel free to put some things into the chat if you have any specific questions. And we're definitely try to go through them at the end of the session. I would say we're going to give about 10 minutes or so for Q&A. So the ladies have let me just say this before you jump into your questions. The ladies have jam-packed, detailed, critical information as it relates to the program. So allow them to give you the information, but also jot down your questions and tag them into the Q&A, whatever you might have. Hopefully it will get answered during their session, but if not, we're also going to be monitoring to make sure that we get as many questions answered today. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Miss Irma and Michelle. We have our fabulous Michelle in the background managing our this whole setup. Let's just say that. And then also Michelle, if you can just turn on the presentation for Miss Irma. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. I am so privileged to be able to come and speak with all of you this morning. It was only about a month ago we talked about getting connected with the realtors. So I thank you, Michelle, for calling me. And we went through a whole summer of phone tags. But I am so appreciative because the Section 8 program is one of HUD's major programs in providing subsidies directly to owners and providing affordable housing to many thousands of folks. Right here at the Housing Authority, we administer over 3,000 vouchers. And within Passaic County, and I know you're in New Jersey, but within Passaic County, there are two other housing authorities that do likewise. We have New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, which covers the entire state of New Jersey, and we have the Passaic County Housing Authority, and I forgot the city of Passaic. So just from those four entities, there are many, many folks who need your services. But I think just as an anecdotal remark, I think folks have just been a little afraid, or finances tend to keep them in the space of coming to us and the housing authority providing a list of available units, either through a hard copy or the internet. But as I mentioned, the Section 8 program is one of HUD's major housing program to assist low and moderate income families. I know, as Vanetta said, we have lots of information that we put in a package to you. But this morning, I think it's critical that we deal with those salient points. And the salient points for our Section 8 rental program is that folks are selected off a waiting list. Every 3 or 4 years, we open up the list and we get at least, our last time we opened up the list, we got close to 16,000 folks that applied, and we selected 1,000 folks through a lottery. And as units and funding becomes available, those folks are given a
Section 8 voucher.
A Section 8 voucher, and this voucher pays the landlord the difference between what the rent is and what the family is eligible for. So, Michelle, I'm so sorry. I'm a chatty Addy. I was supposed to tell you next, or next screen. I'm sorry. From the waiting list, folks come to you because we select them and they're vetted. They're vetted already as to eligibility. So if someone shows up at your office and says, I'm a Section 8 recipient, the paperwork that they have with them will indicate what the maximum rent we would pay, and that they're entitled to participate in the Section 8 program. Please, you could.
And the bedroom size that
Right.
household qualifies for.
Right. So someone can show up and say, I want a 5-room apartment when their household composition is only for a 3-bedroom. So that piece of paper that they bring with them is what guides you in helping them find an apartment. And that piece of paper they're going to be traveling with is the rent.
We give them the rent, we give them the payment standard schedule, we give them their voucher, and we give them an RFTA package.
Right. And the RTA package is what's really required for you to be looking at. And next, Michelle, please. So policy-wise, we talk about benefits to the participants. And as I mentioned, these are parts of the population that's low to moderate income folks. And so from a policy standpoint, it is our obligation that they have decent and affordable housing. And the Section 8 program allows them to meet the tests for that. In Paterson right now, demand for apartments are high, and the supply isn't so much on point. So we're always having this struggle about what's available and the cost and how much, but we are able to offer folks what we consider portability, that they can move to any other jurisdiction in New Jersey and the other 49 states in the United States, as long as they have a voucher and there's a public housing agency or a not-for-profit who administer the programs. So folks aren't just limited to their immediate environment. So leasing a unit, and this may not be, Michelle, we could go to leasing a unit. This may not, benefit to the landlord. Landlords would be your client. Landlords may ask, can you lease up my unit? Very simple. Folks come in, they have RTA, they've been vetted, they choose. We, as the housing authority, do not choose where they should select an apartment. And your role as realtor plays a very important role in helping them, assisting them, because it's part of HUD's analysis of the Section 8 program. There's somewhat of a bonus assessment. And the voucher program, Section 8, it's called the Housing Choice Voucher, which means actually folks have choice through opportunities. So as a realtor, we hope that you put the reasonable attempt and the opportunity to provide choice for folks that may come in looking to lease units. Actually, in the final analysis, the housing authority do get bonuses in our assessment of our program when folks move out of the poverty areas to more areas of choice. So I would like to thank you in advance for making opportunity and choice a benefit to us. Leasing a unit, and this is not in the write-up because for different jurisdictions, it may be different. So leasing a unit for most jurisdictions, it is somewhat mandatory and critical that processing that's required by the city is met. And our experience has been with realtors that folks go to looking to find a place, the process gets bogged down right at the point of finding a unit for leasing, to be leased up. And we require a we require an inspection by the fire department, the health department who do lead inspection, and
New Jersey Community Affairs.
Yeah, New Jersey Community. So Wanda, talk about what's really mandatory in terms of them going looking for a unit and bringing in the proper documents.
Okay.
You're going to have to speak up a little louder.
Here at City of Paterson Housing Authority, like I said, we give the tenant RFTA that gives them the opportunity to go and talk to realtors, to landlords, to try to lease up in the unit. We have several documents the landlord has to provide and complete, and then there's certificates through the City of Paterson that the landlord has to bring back. The certificate of occupancy or the re-rental, it's the lead certificate and the fire certificate. The unit has to pass all three qualifications in order for a tenant to be leased up in the unit here in Paterson. And we have deadlines on when the paperwork has to be submitted for processing. So if the tenant provides the documentation, the landlord completes all the required paperwork and submit all the required documents, the deed, the social security card if it's an individual, the SS4 form if it's a LLC or a company, the the mortgage statement or the current property tax form, then we will accept those documents and start the lease up process for a tenant.
So there was a question or comment about processing time. We usually start at a 60-day to find a unit. Given the market or the state of the market, we can do 30-day intervals if you're leading the way and trying to find other suitable units. So we could take this process up to 120 days to find a unit and sign a contract with a landlord. So in most instances, 120 days is suitable and adequate. So again, we provided overall information, but as Wanda mentioned, the city approvals and inspection is critical. She mentioned payment standards. We did not include the current payment standard in this packet because the year's going to end in another 2 months. Come January 1st, we will have in effect fair market rent at 110% in 2023. And most of you may be familiar with the Bergen Passaic fair market rents. And as an example, and let me just say this, we will make this available to you. We just didn't upload it last night for the presentation, but these fair market rents come out every October. So to make life simple for everyone, we start on the calendar year with fair market rents that come out October 1st, 2021. What year are we in? 2022. So for January 1st, 2023, there are new fair market rents. And it's by bedroom size and in some cases by zip codes. So we have 2 tracks going. Zip codes that HUD has established what that rent would be, and then there everything else. But it's all based on rent reasonableness of at least 3 comparables. So you have the inspection, you have rent reasonableness, and you have payment standards based on the fair market rent as a guide to what's an affordable rent. Please, can you hit that? Touch it, touch the screen. We went off for a second. So, so far, there are those 2 things that's mandatory and that you should make note of. Once we lease up a unit, the payment goes directly to the landlord. As a realtor, you can charge a fee. The landlord can include security deposits. They can go and inspect where someone is currently living. There are things that can be imposed, and we talk about it with the landlord or the realtor to make the process work in a timely manner. And folks are very happy with where they live. There's a diagram. Michelle, can you go to the voucher lease-up process? That, yes, that can be reviewed, and we have included our contact information if you need to contact us. But the process, we always want to stay within that 60-day frame if possible. But if it doesn't, we do not terminate folks because they can't find a unit. But they must be some work, some effort that I've looked at 5, 6, 7 units and none really meets my family requirement. And one point that we want to stress here, to go on that list of 1, 2, 3, the 2 that I mentioned before, is fair housing. You know, we live now in a litigious environment that everyone wants to get someone, sue someone. Please, as realtors, just be on top of what the fair housing requirements are for whatever jurisdiction you're working and you're trying to lease up, because now participants are very skilled and knowledgeable about what fair housing law really means. Did I miss any points, ladies? No? Okay, so Vanetta and members, I try to stay on point, but again, I just want to end with this program is a primary program of the HUD inventory, Section 8 housing choice voucher will stay around. Congress has yet not to allocate funds for the last 40 years. And right now, it's a major program in the HUD toolbox. The inspection and approvals from local city agencies are critical for the processing of a HAP contract. 3, the lease up time is critical. And we want everyone to be aware of the payment standards that guide an acceptance of a request for leasing. And as I mentioned, we will send this over to Michelle so she can provide for the members. We just haven't had our board approve it, and it's 23 states, but you can use it as a guide for folks coming in and looking for housing in the next couple of months. So
Awesome.
I thank you again for allowing me this opportunity. I hope that we can partner. I hope this is a partnership that can go to all of the other PHAs in New Jersey. I looked at the list last night and there are many. So I hope that we can make that connection with all of them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Irma. Amazing presentation. And guys, you know, there's a lot of questions and I do apologize. I didn't mention this at the header of the session. So the slides are all going to be provided along with some additional attachments that that the city of Paterson had provided to us as well. So Michelle will be sure to get that out over the next couple of days so that all of the members that joined the session will be able to obtain them. And we have a lot of questions in the chat, amazing, awesome questions in the chat. So we're myself and the ladies will also be trying to answer them. And then we're also going to have that Q&A at the end. So if you don't get something answered, we're going to really try to make it happen. But right now, I'm just going to turn it over to Lucy.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Lucy Ruiz. I am the Senior Housing Counselor, HUD certified for the Housing Authority. I'm going to talk about the Housing Choice Voucher Homeownership Program. Next, please. Basically, the homeownership voucher is similar to the rental rental voucher is just used and subsidized for homeownership. This voucher allows the subsidy of the monthly payments to meet expenses of the property. Next, please. I know that sometimes in the rental, depending on the market rental, if the rental goes up, rental that subsidized tends to change. In this case, there will be no separate or additional funding available for the homeownership Section 8 voucher. Next, please. The homeownership voucher options family, they're responsible for the unit. They will be able to select the unit, and they can have a realtor representing them to select the unit, and they will be able to pursue the inspection and go forward with the transaction. Next. Next, please. The homeownership voucher subsidy, the payment standard, it's based on the house payment standard for rent and homeownership. The homeownership family payment standards, they're never less than the payment standards at the time of homeownership assistance. Next, please. The homeownership expenses, this is what we look at when we're examining the contract and mortgage pre-approval. We're focusing on the principal, the interest, and mortgage debt. The mortgage insurance, real estate taxes are very important, especially in the area where we are. Homeowners insurance, and what will be the PHA allowance for that utilities. Next, please. The homeownership expenses, are contingency of the PHA allowance for the maintenance of the property, the allowance for the major repairs for the property, principal and interest on mortgage debt for major repairs on the property. If it's a co-op or condominium, that may include operations charge or maintenance of the fees, land lease, and payment. Next, please. The family eligibility. In general, the family member has represent homeownership interest in a residence, and they have to be accommodated of the homeownership assistance. The current homeownership are not eligible for programs. If that's the case, the status of providing cooperation, helping to acquire the share, the accommodation for the homeownership assistance. Next, please. The first-time home buyer, no family member or any representation should have any interest member during the last 3 years. So they cannot buy, they cannot be a previous owner in the first 3 years of this interest of the property. They have to be a first-time home buyer. That includes anybody who is under the Section 8 voucher. They cannot be someone who has owned a property or inherit a property that will not be qualified as a first-time home buyer. So they have to be free and clear of any owner of every property. Also, that applies for any cooperative members that is helping that Section 8 obtain the property. Next, please. HUD minimum income requirement. As you can see, there are different layers of clients that we look at. There is non-disabled families at the federal minimum wage hours that we look at, and we have the disability families. We do have an exception for older and disabled families. Also, the welfare system may not be considered in the determination of the family need requirement. Next, please. Minimum income requirement. So this is an overall. When you're looking at Section 8, it goes very similar with a regular homeowner that's looking to buy a home. We look for an established minimum income standard that is higher than the HUD limit for either both type of family. The family has to meet requirements, limitation for HUD, and the family will be determined meeting income eligibility requirements for the home ownership option. Next, please. The family eligibility. They have to be working. The client has to be working the full-time employment, current employment, full-time, no less than an average 30 hours per week, has been continuously working, not only for the housing authority, but that this is some of the items that the bank also look for. You have to be working, even though you're getting Section 8, the person has to have some contribute money for the monthly payment on the property mortgage that they're going to acquire. Next, please. Mortgage default. So if the individual who is purchasing, the Section 8 client who's looking to purchase, has any history of defaulting or anybody in the Section 8 voucher, it's a potential that that will make the family not eligible. Family who has adult family members at the time of default has previously received homeownership assistance default. So these will be terms to deny that assistance. So we take this very seriously. We look at the client's information background file to make sure that that system are going to the right families and that they never experienced any default of a property in the past. The PH also established additional requirements for family pool eligibility. Next, please. The pre-assistance, homeownership canceling. So the main component that we supply the client with, the Section 8 client, is that the family must attend and complete a homeownership canceling program requirement by the PHA. Myself, I'm the one who conducts the homeownership and the follow-up of the client process of homeownership. Next, please. The pre-assistance canceling, the topics that are included, we have to make sure that the client understands the home maintenance, budgeting and money management. Credit canceling is a big one. We emphasize on credit, make sure we prepare the client to be able to apply for a mortgage and be able to be approved and acquire the mortgage. If we have to do credit repair, then I will do the credit repair in conjunction with any credit companies that we, agencies that we work with. And then financial aspect, we go through obtaining the financial loan pre-approval type of financing, pre and con difference of approach, how to avoid loans with inappropriate terms and conditions. We look at this information very close. We want to make sure that our first-time home buyer from Section 8 is going with a product that the housing authority feels comfortable with and is for the best interest of the client. Finding a home. So the PHA may establish timed limited for the family to locate the home, to purchase, to close on the home. The tenants-based assistance, the PHAs may not steer or restrict families to certain sellers or neighborhoods. The portability, it depends on that applicants receive the PHA administration homeownership options and acceptance for new families. Next, please. So the eligibility unit. That unit, the housing authority, we are developers too. We do have our own units. However, the client doesn't have to buy one of our units. They have alternatives to enter into any contract as long as the purchase of the property it's according to our titles and real estate process, the land, and so on. The home must be located on a permanent foundation. The family has the right to occupy the home site for at least 40 years. Next, please. Eligibility units. that PHA will disapprove of owners. So if any owners, if we see the purchase of the property, if the seller is debarred, suspended, or subject to a limited denial of participant under the 24 CFR Part 24, the PHA may deny approval of the sale for these reasons. Next, please. Sales of the PHA owned units. So the housing authority, like I said before, we do have our own units. If that client, the Section 8 client, has an interest that PHA will permit the purchase of that, they're not obligated to purchase the property. And the family will understand they're freely to select without pressure or any steering of purchasing the property, whether it's independent agency approved by HUD, must be performed certain PHA administration functions. Next, please. 2 home inspections. We require 2 home inspections. So the housing qualified standard inspection and independent professional home inspection. The PHA conducts a housing qualifying standard inspection on their voucher program, determining current conditions, just like we do with a rental, to discern safety and sanitary for the property, for the clients. No annual HQS inspection is required at this point. Next, please. Independent professional inspection. I know in the real estate business, this is an option that the client have, whether they want to do a professional inspection. With our Section 8 client, that's not an option. We are required that the property will be inspected. Independently professional select a hiring for the family. We do review that inspection. It's part of our review of the file for the procedure of home ownership. Next, please. The independent professional inspection required for inspection to arrange by buyer and to satisfy the buyers. Typically, contingency clause in contract of sale, consistent with the real estate practice. The PHA will disapprove the unit based on report. Contract of sale, the family must provide copies of contract sale to the PHA. So I get to review all that information with the client, make sure the client understands what they're signing for, what are the contingency on the contract, provide for the reminder that they have to do that pre-purchase inspection, and the sellers to certification to sell not that debar is suspended or subject to a limited denial of practice participants. Next, please. The financing. The PHA may not require use of a specific lender. We cannot steer the client to a particular lender, even realtors. All we do here is to make sure that the client understands the process of the purchase, the client understands the qualifications for the lender, the pre-qualification. We prohibit any forms of predatory lending, require that the terms on the finances they go together with the needs of the clients, and also required restrictions and other debt securities by the home. Next, please. The financing, affordability of purchase. The PHA may disapprove the proposal finance. We see a lot of mismatch with some of the home ownership products. We see people that sometimes are purchasing above their means. If the housing authority is going to assist the client with the Section 8 voucher, we have to make sure that the property fits the client's financial needs. So we do look at that, whether it is for purchasing, refinancing, or any improvement or repairs of the property. Making sure that the PHA determines the debt is affordable, or the lender or the loan terms do not meet the PHA requirements. Next, please. The continuation of that system, it continues. It depends Usually, the average family will be able to benefit from that assistance from the time they possess the property, close on the property, until 15 years of ownership, depending. That might change whether the person is elderly or their disability. It depends on how the family acquired the Section 8 voucher. Again, we have to look at the complying the terms of the mortgage, the residency of the homeownership interest, resident property, reports if it changes the position of the income. Even though the individual will own the property, we still will be reporting and verifying income every year as we do. There is no different on that if you compare it with the rental. As long as the individual gets that system, we do report and make changes if there is any changes on the income on that subsidy. Next, please. The continuation of that system also required that Section 8 participant to continue with their education on post-purchase counseling. It's one of the requirements to make sure that the client understands the process of maintaining the property and so on. Statements of homeownership obligation, written agreements signed by the family to comply with all family obligations under the homeownership options. Next, please. Next.
That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, let me get back to the, okay, here we go, yay. Awesome, thank you so much, Lucy. That was fabulous. You went through, but you gave so much pertinent information. I just want, and I just realized I'm not in the, I just would love if you guys would post in the chat, how many of you even knew that there was a homeownership voucher? If you knew there was a homeownership voucher, put a 1. If you did not know there was a homeownership voucher, put a 2. I don't know where it's going to pop up at, but I feel like there's a chat button somewhere that you guys can utilize. So if you knew that there was a homeownership voucher that people could utilize to buy a house, put 1. If you never knew it, put 0. I'm quite sure many of you had no idea there was even a voucher that was aside from rent. So this is awesome. You ladies gave us great information on, number 1, what is the process from a rental perspective? And number 2, what is the process from a home ownership perspective? I have 4 million questions. So let me go, because I started to make a note of them all. So I'm going to, we have about 14 minutes left, and I'll just say 13 minutes left. And ladies, I'm gonna kind of like go through these questions quickly because there's so many and they're so critical. So if either of you want to just jump in with the answer, it could be yes, no, or just whatever the answer is, that will be phenomenal. So the first question that I have here is from Leslie Brown, and she says, is there this, first of all, this is why we have in this session, Leslie, like you were boom, spot on with this question. So is there a way to report agents that still think that, that are still saying my client won't accept Section 8? So if you find that someone might be discriminating against a potential Section 8 client, what is the recommendation on how they should escalate that, that situation?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. The Housing Authority, as the housing counselor, I'm a HUD certified housing counselor. We have filed claims, and we have open investigations through the Department of Housing and Urban Development against fair housing violations. You can either contact us or you can go directly to the Department of Housing and Urban Development website, and you will fill out an application and investigation will open up.
Love it. Thank you. So discrimination in all forms impacts us all. So definitely, if you feel, maybe it can be right, it can be wrong. So definitely, there is ways to report it. And Lucy said to reach out to them directly if it's in the Paterson market. And then if not, then you can also reach out to go to HUD.gov and you can report it there as well. So another question is from Alvera. What is the process to transfer a person's case from one county to another?
Okay, that's what we call portability. Basically, what the tenant has to do is what we do here in Paterson, we have the tenant fill out what's called the mutual rescission form, which is basically agreement between the landlord and the tenant stating that the tenant is going to move out on a specific date. And that form has to be notarized. And the tenant also fills out what we call a portability request form. They state what agency they wanted to port out to, the contact, and all the contact information. Once we get those documents back, then we send that information to that housing authority in which that tenant list that they want to go to.
Awesome, awesome. So guys, if somebody wants to transfer, there's documentation that the housing authority has, and then they just get that completed. One question that was a common theme throughout this, throughout the Q&A was, you guys are Paterson Housing Authority. So it is overarching, I would say, let's start there. Is the rules and regulations from Section 8 a city does it vary by city, or it's a federal program that might have different nuances per city?
Okay, so overall, it's a federal program. The basic requirements are the same. However, as I mentioned, different jurisdictions may add different components that fit that jurisdiction. But if you looked up Section 8, the requirements would be the same in North Carolina as in California, but they may be different time frames, payment standards, but overall the program is the same.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Irma. One of the other questions from Anastasia was, does the program work with different down payment assistance programs? So can someone be on Section 8 and get the New Jersey HMFA down payment assistance program, or the city of Paterson's down payment assistance program?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I've been doing this with the Housing Authority for over 15 years. I have had the opportunity to work with the state on their down payment assistance, with the local housing, City of Paterson, Department of Community Development grant. Also, we have venture out with the Federal Bank of New York on their down payment assistance, and we work with the CRA program, the Community Investment Act, from those local banks that offer it.
Awesome, awesome. So yes, people, Section 8 is a form of income. So it can be used with all different programs. People love it. Yes, the answer is yes. One other question came from Chartrin Shields. She said, if somebody has a Section 8 voucher for $1,450, but the apartment is $1,850, how are they able to get the additional funds? Are they able to get that apartment, or what's the situation?
Okay, the situation with that is, if the landlord sets a contract, there's a set contract rent. That individual can't go above that contract rent. For instance, the apartment is, the landlord was $1,800. The standard is set at $1,400. You cannot go over that $1,400. So that would be excessive, and not only that, that would be against a program violation. Tenant can't pay no more than what the set contract rent is,
or 30%.
Or 30% of their monthly adjusted income.
And that question actually came up a couple of times, and it kind of also just ties into another similar question was, if the contract rent is $2,000, but the customer only qualifies for a certain amount, it is illegal, or kind of what you just said, for them to be able to chip in their own money on the side. They can't do that.
Correct, correct.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I'll just jump into just another kind of question that appeared a couple of times, just around the fact that, and Irma, I know you mentioned saying that the fact that the dollar amounts that people are able to get changes every year. And it's going to be changing coming soon. I think you said you guys updated in January. So the fair market value for rent has gone up, just like housing overall from purchasing has gone up. So, you know, is there any conversations around making, increasing not just the standard, but just really increasing what that fair market rent is, because it's kind of not compatible in the market?
So right now, when we send the sheet over, you will see that we have increased the fair market rent by 110%, just to stay competitively in the market and still provide affordability. So, and this is the first time, I think, in maybe 5 years that we've gone to the 110%. We've done 97% of the fair market rent to allow owners to get an increase. If the fair market rent didn't go up, there was still an option to increase the rent. But this year, the market is just being driven by owners making units available, that we did the 110%.
Awesome, awesome. Another key question that, you know, these are our members are realtors. And a lot of times when the Section 8 tenants are utilizing the realtors to find properties, there is the real estate commission. So does Section 8, one of the questions talks about, does Section 8 cover, or is there any component of Section 8 that covers that realtor commission?
Well, we've done a number of things in our market. We've paid security deposits to the landlord. On the homeless ones, I don't remember if we paid the commission to the realtor. At different times, we do have discretion based on the need of the group. For individuals, we don't just go and pay a real estate agent the fee to show them units. But if we're working on a specific program, and right, like the homeless, emergency housing voucher, we know the condition of the population that we're serving. So we would pay a real estate agent, we would pay the security deposit. But in all fairness, then we cut down the number of people who can actually get the subsidy, because it's all driven by a designated or allocated budget. So we take that budget. If we're going to do these other not amenities, but these other components, then we really cut down on the number of folks that we can really serve. So we try to lean the other way of negotiating certain things, extending the security deposit. Can you take maybe a month's rent for the fee instead of the month and a half? So there have been conversations over time, depending on the situation.
Awesome, awesome. So typically, potentially no, but definitely depending on the situation. Is always, listen, my mom says closed mouths don't get fed, so ask. So ask the question and see what happens.
You're great.
Love it, love it. Another thing here, just around the inspection component, is there a way for landlords to be able to do like the preemptive strike? Like, can they get an inspection done so that their unit is approved by Section 8, so that if they get a Section 8 tenant, that eliminates some of that waiting time and having to go through the inspection process? So if I know I have a unit that's going to be available in June, And even though I don't have a Section 8 tenant at that time, can I connect with the housing authority and say, can my unit be inspected so that it's on an approved list, shall I say, of and my property can be rented to a Section 8 tenant?
We do not have an approved inspection list. And what we find out, and this is not the realtors, and that owners would say my unit is ready, and then we go to inspect and it's not ready. So we try to do it all in one in one processing link. You let us know. And most times landlords would come in and say, I'm going to have my unit ready. And we say, oh, come back when the unit is ready. We send inspectors out. We don't have such lag time between you notifying us that your unit is ready for us to come out and do the inspection. They can go to the city and make certain that those approvals are in place to keep the processing on track. Our time, we have control. You call me today and said, my unit is ready. In 24, 48 hours, we'll have someone out to inspect.
Love it, love it. And I think maybe one thing that may help kind of ease the realtors when they're working with those landlords, that 60-day time frame can be scary to a landlord to say, you're going to have to wait 60 days for this Section 8 process to move through. So what would be a best practice for a realtor to partner with the housing authority to help guide and move that process along, whether it's getting documents, having those conversations, getting inspections ordered? Like, I'm sure that there's, personally, you tell me what you need, you got it. Like, I'm that person when it comes to my Section 8 tenants. Mine never takes 60 days. Let me just say that, because I get everybody what they need when they need it. So, I would ask, is there, what kind of recommendations do you guys have for our realtors to offer to be able to move that process along faster?
They need to be more like you, but we also have briefings for landlords, because I think sometimes not understanding the process sort of makes it stale and slow. So we do have sessions for landlords when we find that we have many units available. We'll create a time for a briefing and stress the most critical piece is getting your documents into us all at one time. I'll send you what I have available, and then it gets, put over here, and we're waiting for the participant, the Section 8 participant, to come back with documents. We're waiting for the landlord. So we want to make it work, the participant, the landlord, and the housing authority together, that we're not these individual components, even though we are, but we want to work this step 1, step 2, step 3, we're done.
Love it.
They
Love
have
it.
motivation as you, we can get it done within that 60-day period. And I must stress, it doesn't have to go to that 60-day period. In 30 days, you have your documents in, and we have portals now that we don't mail checks. Documents are placed in a landlord portal. Your rent goes directly to your portal by the 5th of the month. Your inspection results are in your portal. So it's not like you got to run to our office, make the phone call. You could just go on your portal and get all the information you need.
Technology advancements is amazing. So realtors, I would say, just when you think about these Section 8 transactions, whether it's for the homeownership voucher or for that rental tenant, and you're working with that landlord or you're working with that tenant, whatever side of the road you're on, think about all your regular purchases that you do, all the regular deals that you do. You're working with the loan officer, you're working with the home inspector, with the attorney, with the title company, with the consumer. You have everybody in those email combinations. Do that same thing when it comes to these Section 8 component transactions. So connect with the case manager, connect with the authority, connect with the landlord, have everybody in those group emails, just as if you were managing that same purchase, transaction. So ladies, we're like past the limit, and I want to thank you both for your time. I think this was phenomenal. We had 9 million questions, so I do apologize that we were not able to get to all of your questions. Irma, go ahead.
So Vanetta, can I offer this to you and Michelle and the members? The questions that you have, if you guys shoot them over to us, we will get a response back to you next week in writing, and you can share it.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Also, we understand the time constraints, and we didn't want to really be too chatty today.
Listen.
But we're willing to do that.
Listen, listen, that right there. Thank you. Yes. So guys, thank you ladies so much for your time. Thank you so much for all this valuable information. On behalf of NCJAR, Michelle, Mary, and the whole Crystal and the whole team, Lucy, Irma, Wendy in the background, communications, technology, everybody that was able to put this together. And then thank you to our members for joining to capture all of this information. Like, I applaud you for seeking out this information to better serve the community, to better serve your clients, whether they're landlords, whether they're buying a house, whether they're renting, whatever the case may be. I definitely applaud you all for being a part of this session. And I'm going to say thank you all. You're going to get the presentations, you're going to get the additional documentations, and Irma and her amazing team has offered to answer the questions. We'll even give them 2 weeks to get those questions answered, because you guys, we're seeking knowledge, and knowledge is power, and I need all of you to be powerful. So
thank you. Thank you,
everyone,
for facilitating this.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, have a